Every single month on Pokemon Showdown, there will be 3 obscure old generation formats that become playable on the Pokemon Showdown ladder for a limited time. And this month, Generation 2 PU was one of these options. So I was curious, what's going on in the world of Generation 2 PU? Why don't I get a sense of the metagame? So I gave it a bit of a Google search. I found some resources that came up, and according to them, it would seem that Furret is the #1 Pokemon of Gen 2 PU according to these. And Furret happens to be one of my favorite Pokemon, so I was intrigued. I found a sample team featuring Furret. I went to queue up a game, and then I was met with an unfortunate slap in the face when it was revealed to me that Furret is now a banned Pokemon. Now initially I was upset, but then I did some digging. I did some further investigation, and it turned out that Furret was not only the #1 Pokemon in this format. Furret was the most overcentralizing and broken threat in any Gen 2 format ever. Even more so than Snorlax is in Gen 2 OU. And Snorlax is infamous for how centralizing it is in Gen 2 OU. Furret was even more powerful in the PU format than Snorlax is in OU. Now how in the world is that possible? I know PU is a low tier, but look at Furret. It's not hurting anybody. This is a very low power level Pokemon. What could Furret possibly be getting up to here? So why don't we take a look at a time where Furret was the center of the universe, the king of its domain, and how the people revolted against it and got it banned, outlawed from ever being used again. But first I would like to remind everybody that the trade offer from Iron Mugulis is still on the table. All he wants is access to the move High Horsepower, and he's offering a whopping $1 million for this privilege. Some people have some concerning theories about where he got this money. I won't get into all of that. We can't confirm or deny any of that. But all I know is that the offer remains on the table, okay? And if you're interested, the makeship Iron Mugulis Plush is up for sale for only 7 more days. Get it while you can. Thank you. So in the world of Generation 2 PU, Furret was a bit like the Snorlax of the tier. It was a bulky normal type. I mean, bulky is a stretch with these stats, but down in PU, these are good stats. You have to reframe the way you think things for lower tiers, because an HP of 85 is actually pretty damn excellent. So is a base speed of 90. Relatively speaking, Furret is even better than Snorlax. I mean, in many ways it is, but because of this base 90 speed, it's like a fast Snorlax, which is a frightening thought, isn't it? The most popular set to run on Furret was Curse, Rest, Double Edge, and Sleep Talk. This set did the trick against most things in the whole format. The Rest Sleep Talk combo gives you an incredible amount of sustain, with direct healing, Sleep Talk which can call Rest in Gen 2, and a form of status curing, as when you rest, it overwrites whatever your previous status ailment was. So Furret acted as kind of a defensive backbone for teams, because it has a great neutral typing against almost everything. Its bulk is acceptable for the format, and it can rest off any status ailments, making it a safe switch in against Pokemon that like to click paralysis moves, or toxic, or burn, or anything like that. Having normal as your only attacking type is very restrictive, of course, because ghost types are immune to normal, and rock and steel types resist normal. In most generations, normal is not a great attacking type. But in Gen 2, normal is a good attacking type. And in Gen 2 PU, there's actually not that much in the game that can handle a simple double edge. Your best option for a ghost type is Ghastly, who is a fine Pokemon, I think, but that's all you've got in that department. Ghastly deserves a bit more respect than this, actually, I apologize. Down in PU, a 100 special attack is pretty incredible. This guy's got great moves like Hypnosis, Explosion, and Thief. And it's actually an A rank Pokemon. So the presence of Ghastly at least helps to curb the dominance of this particular Furret set. There are some rock types as well. There are 0 steel types, funnily enough. No steel types in PU. All the steel types are too powerful, but there are some rock types. You have Rhyhorn, and down in PU, something like Rhyhorn feels like Landorus Therian. This is probably the best bulky ground type. In Gen 2 PU, it's an A rank Pokemon. And it's a crucial normal resistance with ground and rock stab. It has curse itself. It's got reasonable defensive stats for the power level. Rhyhorn is helping to keep the worlds together. You have Onyx, who is actually a ZU Pokemon, but you can use it here anyway. There's Makago, and there's Corsola. If you really want, you can also run Omanite, who does not look very frightening whatsoever, but it is an option. So honestly, a Furret with just Double Edge as its only attack will do you well enough if you just have teammates that cover these very few possible Furret switch-ins. But if you also want to hit these things with your Furret, you are able to, because Furret's move pool is pretty vast among its PU peers. You have access to Shadow Ball, which is a quick way to deal with Ghastly with a super effective Ghost-type physical attack. This also deals stronger neutral damage against many of the other targets trying to come in on Furret, like those rock types. And another option at Furret's disposal to deal with these pesky switch-ins is one of its most famous options, Surf. If you're a Furret fan at all, you would know that Furret has access to Surf. It's one of its most famous options. Surf is the move that allows Furret to traverse distant waters. It's how he traveled the globe on his famous world tour back in the day, if you remember that. And in Pokemon battles, this is also a useful option to one-hit KO Onyx and Rhyhorn and Makago, who are pesky rock types trying to come in on Double Edge and resist it. They're in for a rude awakening if the Furret happens to be carrying Surf, which it commonly does on this set, dropping Curse for Sleep Talk, and just running Double Edge and Surf as a simple coverage combo. This is a set that takes more advantage of Furret's speed, since Curse isn't lowering your speed, and you can just be a speedy guy clicking this near-perfect coverage combination. Another option that Furret can go with to kind of get the best of all worlds is Hidden Power Ground, because Hidden Power Ground is able to hit Ghastly. Since Ghastly is a Ghost Poison type and Levitate doesn't exist yet, Hidden Power Ground will just hit Ghastly super effectively. Hidden Power Ground is also able to hit all those dang rock types. It's ×4 super effective against a Makago. Kind of immoral to hit Makago with Hidden Power Ground as Furret, but you can if you want, or maybe you could if you wanted in the past. Hidden Power Ground hits everything that Furret is worried about. In fact, it even hits Corsola, it even hits Omanite. If you were one of the bozos trying to run Omanite to get ahead of Furret, Hidden Power Ground will hit that. Now, many of these Pokemon can take the Hidden Power Ground relatively well because they have high defense stats, but with Curse, you are not going to 1v1 Furret, as it boosts to the point where it will eventually one-shot you with Hidden Power Ground. And if you want to just throw morality out the window altogether, you can run Hidden Power Grass, specifically to ruin the day of someone running Omanite or Corsola, who think that they are intelligent, and think that they, in the worst case, it's Hidden Power Ground, and I can tank that with my defense. No, Hidden Power Grass will devastate Omanite and Corsola specifically. So in this tier, Furret was just not very manageable. There was no good check to the guy, because it has options to hit all of its possible switch-ins. Even Snorlax in Gen 2 OU has better answers than this, like Skarmory and Golem. Snorlax can run some coverage to hit them, but then it's giving up an important option that makes it worse against other things. Snorlax feels more manageable than Furret does, relatively speaking, in an insane turn of events. As for offensively threatening Furret, I think that the only guy that could do so with super effective damage was Hitmontop, and Hitmontop happens to be slower than Furret, and with Curse boosts, even though you hit it super effectively, the defense boosts will eventually outpace your damage, and you can't even 1v1 Furret as a fighting type. The hardest hitting attacking option on Hitmontop is High Jump Kick for 85 power, and it's going to be very difficult for you to stomach the double edges coming your way and actually defeat Furret with a super effective Pokemon, something that should be a counter. Furret reached a point of dominance in this format where actively trying to check Furret felt like too much of a damn Herculean task, so the best bet was to use your own Furret, play for a 1v1 scenario where you just hope that you eventually get a critical hit, ignoring all their defensive boosts, and sweeping the game with your Furret, who is the most powerful thing in existence, of course. Or you just hope to get a crit with a Hitmontop or something else to power through the Furret like that, which is not exactly a great sign for metagame health, is it? This Furret foray got out of hand, and eventually the people revolted. They said enough is enough. Furret is a tyrant. We cannot do this anymore. And this is when the Furret revolution took place. I believe it was Makago who championed the revolution as the brunt of Furret's injustice, losing significantly to multiple of its sets and sort of losing its identity as a rock type in the process. He thought he was supposed to beat normal types, but no, they took that from him. And so Makago, well, let's just say he made Furret an offer that he couldn't refuse, and now Furret, he's nowhere to be seen in the Gen 2 PU format. You can't use him anymore. If you try to, they will find you, and they will give you a text box on the screen, and they will say, you had better take that back right now. You'd better rescind what you just said. We don't even talk about Furret in this place anymore. Furret was officially banned on April 9th, 2024. Every single voter chose ban. Except for two. Mr. Soup voted do not ban, and Amaranth abstained. Interesting. Very interesting, Mr. Soup. So there were some Furret loyalists, but most of the community wanted Furret gone forever. Now a lot of people are probably thinking to themselves, Jimothy, aren't you a Furret sympathizer as well? I mean, you have championed Furret in many angles. You had him on your podcast, Jimothy. You spoke to him like an old friend.
You see a Furret come out, you think, whoa, is this...
You got a vaster move pool.
Is he going to pivot on me? Is he going to tidy up? What's happening here?
It is a bit more compelling, a bit more like there's more flavor to what's going on.
Yeah.
Furret is kind of part of your brand on YouTube, isn't it? You're always talking about Furret. Well, look, I wasn't aware of all this stuff that he did, and honestly, I think that over the years he has atoned for his actions and become a better person because of this. So I think I'm in the clear. I think everything's fine. Now that Furret is gone, there are 4 Pokemon in the S rank of Gen 2 PU. They are Hitmontop, Venomoth, Elekid, and Seadra. Instead of one Tyrant dominating everything, we've got this quartet of S rank Pokemon, all of which have reasonable counterplay to them, at least compared to Furret in the past. The closest thing to filling Furret's shoes is probably Clefairy. Clefairy has very similar options. It even has more options that Furret doesn't have, like Moonlight, Thunder Wave, and Ice Beam. But obviously Clefairy is way less powerful. It is used sometimes as a Curse Sweeper. It has Double Edge and Return for normal stab. But look at the stats. 45 base attack is nothing compared to what Furret was doing. Clefairy is much more reasonable. You could also say Noctowl is kind of similar as a normal type Curse Sweeper. Noctowl does have very good stats, and is an A-rank Pokemon, quite a popular one, but Noctowl at least has the secondary flying typing, making it weak to more things and more targetable, especially by special attacks like an Elekid Thunderbolt. And then there is Aipom as well, who has a pretty close attack and speed stat to Furret. Furret's a bit higher, but Aipom's fairly close. But Aipom has a way lower HP stat and also lacks a lot of the important moveset options that Furret had to cover its switch-ins. So Aipom is going to get destroyed by stuff like Rhyhorn and Ghastly. So even though I can no longer use Furret, there are still some funny guys that you can use in this format. I mean, name a format where Delibird is an A-rank Pokemon. Even in ZU tiers, it's tough to find a world where Delibird is any good. An atrocious Pokemon all around, with its unfortunate ice-flying typing and horrendous stats, but down here Delibird is one of the only good Spikes setters, and it happens to have Stab, Ice Beam, and Thief. You can go itemless with Thief to steal leftovers from somebody. Unfortunately, even though Delibird learns Rapid Spin, you can't run Spikes and Rapid Spin on the same set. They won't let this guy have anything, will they? But you can run either or. Both are good options. You run Toxic to fill out the set, I guess. I mean, A rank here is pretty respectable, I have to admit. And it turns out Makago is also an excellent Pokemon in Gen 2 PU in the A rank. It's a bit of an insult to see Makago lower than the not fully evolved Elekid, but I'll take what I can get. Makago is one of my favorites, and it's got a very above average defense stat for a low tier, 120. The Furret ban was very good news for Makago, because it's no longer worried about those Surf and HP Ground sets, and it can do a very good job as a Rest Talk wall. I think there's also some Sunny Day sets you can use, and Curse Makago. There's a bit of set variety on this wonderful lava snail creature, it turns out. I really like old gen lower tiers. I feel like this is what competitive Pokemon is all about to me. They're often extremely small niche communities that are pushing some obscure metagame to its limits, where the top Pokemon is something stupid like Furret. There's a YouTuber called Dawnbuster who makes videos specifically about Gen 2 low tiers. It's a great channel. There's about 1 million videos here about why Croconaw is the best at Gen 2 ZU, for example, and Magby also has a stranglehold on that metagame, apparently. A Poliwag was banned from there, but Croconaw wasn't. I don't know what's going on in there. And I fear that if I open that can of worms, I will have to turn this into a 2-hour-long video. I don't know. Thank you for watching, folks. What do you think of the Furret ban in Gen 2 PU? Do you think it was deserved, based on the information presented in this video? Or do you think that the metagame should have adapted to Furret with such answers as Omanite? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching.